Welcome everybody to Gloucestershire Pension Fund's Employer Forum 2026. This we intend as an annual event. Throughout the year we'll be holding other events with more specific subjects, but this Employer Forum is just a general roundup of things that we feel is relevant to you, employers in Gloucestershire Pension Fund. Right, today we've got four presenters. Myself, Will Moffat, I'm the Pension Group Leader for Communications in the Pension Fund. We also have Leanne Moulder, who is another Pension Group Leader in the Data and Systems team. And we have Andy Cunningham, who's a Pensions Administration Manager, and Petronella Ferry, or as we know her, Pella, who's a Lead Pension Officer in the Communications team. We'll all be chipping in little areas where we sort of feel relevant. The agenda for today, I'll quickly run through the fund website and show you a few updates we've made to it, and also show you a little bit about the employer area, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, and also certain other areas which I think are relevant to you. We'll have a look at the iConnect Employer Portal and the Engaged Member Portal. We'll also talk a little bit about new contribution rates for yourselves and for employees. And with year end coming up, we'll have a little chat about that. And then at the end, we'll talk about LGPS investment pooling and regulatory changes. It's good to be aware of what's going on there. Got a little thing here. We don't like to brag too much, but we did actually win in November last year. Local Government Chronicle, they run an investment awards ceremony every year, and it's for LGPS pension funds and for investment management companies. And we actually entered and won at the very first attempt Fund of the Year. And it does say Fund of the Year small, but there's a Fund of the Year large and Fund of the Year small because it's for funds of assets of 5 billion or less, which is still, in my mind, a huge amount. But we won in that. We had around 3.5, 3.6 billion at the time of entering, and we fought off Wiltshire, Cumbria and Scottish Borders, who were the other finalists. And judges praised our excellent performance results, strong service delivery, and a clear commitment to ESG principles. And they also said our supporting materials were fantastic. So it's just nice to share that, you know, your employers within a pension fund that's doing the right things, we believe, and so does LGC. Okay, so now we'll go onto the website. So the website's been in place since June last year. So before the new branding came in place and before the website was set up, we were sort of deep within the Gloucestershire County Council website, but now we have our own identity. I'm showing here the members page because there are a few updates to the member areas. As employers, individually, you're all actually members as well. So this is kind of relevant to you from a member point of view, and also as an employer, it's good to know what the members are looking at. So if we scroll down through that page, you can see that this is sort of the home page for members, and there's a couple of new pages. We've added an absence from work page because we believe that it's important for people to know if they have to take an extended leave of absence from work, where their pension benefits accrue and where they do not accrue. And it just sort of clarifies that really for them. We're very aware that it's important to keep people safe from scams. We've added this little sort of guide here telling people what to look out for. And if we scroll down, you've got these black boxes that sort of concertina out, they drop down. We've got sort of just some hints and tips on what to do and how to recognise scams and understanding the type of scams that people can be running, just to keep people safe really from those. And next up, I wanted to mention in the About the Fund, we do have a section with all our policies and reports, and you can see from those black boxes, which all drop down, there's lots of different things that you can look at. They might be useful. They're not necessarily useful for the administration of employer duties, but there's something that we've put in the governance policies section. We've updated our business plan recently. And so I believe it's an interesting read for you guys if you want to see that, for the sort of things that we're planning to do. And it also shapes what we're doing in the future for you guys. You'll all hopefully know that if you scroll down on the general homepage, you can click on the button for the employer area. The employer area doesn't appear along the banner at the top, specifically because if we go to the next page, you'll see that when you click on it, it's kind of, I don't want to say semi-hidden, but it's kind of gated. That we have a single username, GPF, and the password is employer !5, which is effectively a way of keeping people who, like members and pensioners and general passers-by, from walking into the employer's field, and just keeping those things so people don't get confused. And so you guys have a dedicated space where you know where all your documents and all your advice and guidance is kept. Obviously, most of you will be very aware of this menu, and there is a section at the right of the pink circle saying LGPS communications, who should we contact? We have up-to-date details for most people, but if you have any new members of staff or anything in any area, basically, we can talk about nominated contacts, people in payroll or finance. You can add them all in, and the survey will expand itself for more people if you need to add more people or not. But yes, in the pink circle, we have an area called Forms for Employers. So if you click on that, you should go to the next slide. And this just has lots and lots of forms to help you sort of administer the scheme. And one thing I would say is that some people may or may not be saving forms to their desktops or in folders in their own computers. But please, when you're filling in a form, look on this site. We endeavour to have the most up-to-date forms on it, and they will supersede anything you may have. And so if you need a form, look here and download the latest version, because that will help very much. Back to the employers menu, and you may notice, you may have seen it already or may not. If you click on the pink circle, we go to the next page, you'll see we have a employer administration guide where we sort of help you with all your responsibilities. It's sort of broken into 8 subjects, which I'll leave you to discover yourselves. One thing we will be talking about is contributions, which is the third along from the left on the bottom, but we'll be talking about that a bit later in this presentation. Something you might all be very interested in is we've just recently put online iConnect guide for employers within the employer section of the website. As you can see from those 4 boxes, there's a section on onboarding, and then there's 2 sections on the monthly submission options, whether that's online or whether that's a CSV file upload, and also a little bit on document uploads. We also have a iConnect FAQ, which is in the box below, but that's a work in progress, and that's going to build as more and more questions develop as things go along. And having said that, we now finish this part of the presentation, and we can do with iConnect. So I'll pass you on to Leanne.
Thank you, El. Good afternoon, everyone. Yep, I'm Leanne Mulder, and I'm the group lead for data systems and projects. And I've taken charge of the historical year-end queries, year-end returns moving forward, and leading the introduction of our member portal Engage and the employer portal iConnect. So we're going to start by looking at iConnect, the employer portal, and I'll give you a brief overview. And just let you know that iConnect has currently just been piloted with a small group of employers. So thank you for those employers who've been doing that for about over 6 months now, to look at all of the ins and outs of how that's working, and to get that working from our side, and to make sure it works from the employer side as well. And we'll be looking to onboard all employers over the next 18 months. As Will has just described, we've created guidance on our web pages, and there should be support there to help you as the employers through your iConnect journey. We will contact you as employers individually when we are ready to onboard you, because we need to ensure that we've got enough resource our side and enough resource your side, and everything's in place before we can get you onboarded. So be patient, we will contact you. So now we're just going to go through a little bit as what is iConnect and how it will help, and what it means for you sort of moving forward. So iConnect is a secure, immediate monthly data transfer system. So as employers, you will log in each month to either manually input data or upload a CSV file. As Will alluded to, in the website, we have got sections which leads you through the manual input data or the upload of the CSV file. So we'll go into that a little bit more, but iConnect compares the new submission with the previous month's submission, and automatically creates events in our pension data system new starters, leavers. It will update care pay. It will administer personal detail changes directly onto the records. So it saves all the manual update, manual input. It should do it automatically. It will alert errors as you're going through your submission. It may fail tolerances. We will put tolerances in place to make sure that we can't have everyone changing their personal details, because that would indicate something's gone wrong with the file or something wrong with the update. So we would want you to look over those events, see whether you think that's roughly the right amount of new starters, clear any errors, stay within the tolerances, and then we can proceed to the submission, and that uploads directly to our pension system. So then it's updated automatically, and it will update our pension system with the monthly care pay and monthly contributions. So then this ensures that we've got accurate, up-to-date information on our pension system. So members leading on to engage slightly can see up-to-date information and can run benefits on up-to-date information. So onto yep. So the first thing we've got to do is get you prepared for onboarding, and there's many things that you can do in the background before we even get involved. So we need to ensure each job role that we've got on our system has a unique identifier on it, so it can match with every record on your payroll. Basically, this reference must match what you use on those iConnect submissions. If a reference appears that wasn't on the previous submission, the system will create a new starter record. So that's how the new starters are created, and it will create everything from what you put on that submission. And further guidance on what you decide to use as these unique references on our iConnect pages when a new ones, because some payroll suppliers may update every time there's small changes, some may not. So I would suggest that you go on and read the kind of guidance on our web pages to make sure that we've got the correct unique references that we want to use. Validate what we've got on our system, validate that matches to what you've got on our system. Before we can get you onboarded, before we go live with having you on iConnect, we need to do a member match. So we need to make sure we have exactly the same records on your payroll, on your iConnect submission, as we do on our pension system, so that all membership must match. So we need to make sure the unique references match, we need to make sure the surnames match, we need to make sure the gender match, we need to make sure the date of birth is correct. So we would want to go through all of that before we even consider getting you on to iConnect, because then it will cause us problem trying to get you on when we onboard in the member matches. So we also then want to go one step further and make sure any previous historic outstanding queries from previous year ends, any starters, we've got everything, any leavers, any contract changes that we've got resolved. So that's maybe why some of you may be getting some emails from me to really try and get all our year end up to date to make sure we can move forward. So as we briefly looked at before, that you've got two options on how to submit the data. It's either an online submission. Do we want to move the no, that's fine, sorry. Yeah, we've got two ways. So it's either an online submission, so that is generally for your small employers under maybe 20 staff. That's just kind of a general number that we've given, and this will mean you will manually enter changes each month. So when you log in, it will kind of give you the information that it was submitted last month. So you only kind of update for any changes that are happening this month. So then iConnect will calculate the cumulative figures automatically. Then you can submit that, and that's updated. So for a manual submission, it would be useful for smaller employers or employers whose staff there's kind of not many changes, because it is a bit more of a manual process. The other option is the CSV file upload. This will be for larger employers of over 20 staff. And we need to ensure that that upload file is in the right format. It's given us the right information in the right columns. It's just making sure all the data is correct. So that is one thing we'll need to ensure before we look at getting anybody onboarded, that that upload file gives us what we want and is kind of easy for you to produce as well. Well, it is as easy as possible, basically. And yeah, the file must match our template, because even I know some employers may do iConnect for other funds. We may require slightly different information or on the files that other funds may not require or may require. Some of the fields are only completed for specific events, for leavers, for starters, but we will go through that on the onboarding. And we would want to have a look at a sample file before we'd even sort of consider it. We'd want to do some testing on it, making sure it was looking in the right format, giving us the right information. So if your payroll provider that you use already supports iConnect and you have got a report that creates an iConnect file, this may be sort of one step to getting you onboarded sort of sooner rather than later. Yeah. Okay, so then we go on to the onboarding process. So once we've got decide whether we're online submission or a file upload, we will then set up the onboarding session where we can configure employer settings, agree tolerances with yourself, and go through a few potential teething issues that we know, although iConnect makes it more efficient kind of from both sides, there are still potential issues that we may need to resolve sort of every month, so we can go through those. And then so after we're onboarding, we would expect monthly submissions to be completed and uploaded promptly, and iConnect can be configured to send reminder and almost send chaser emails to yourself to remind yourself that you've got to do these submissions. So in actual fact, what's the benefit then of you being onboarded, being onto iConnect? Well, we then would no longer require employer starter forms. So I said, I know sometimes they're a bit lengthy to process, but we can get them all on the form. We can set them up immediately from the file. Employer leaver forms. We do ask that we still get leaver forms for retirement, so we can process those as soon as possible. So you potentially could complete those before you would upload your iConnect submission. The monthly return to investments, in most cases. However, if your contributions that you're paying across do differ from the iConnect total, we want you to fill out a reconciliation form, and again that's up on the website to have a look at. You don't need to complete a year-end return, but again, if you're a new employer, we may ask still for a March submission to be uploaded, just to make sure that we think that is the correct information going on, because once that's uploaded, it will only be manual changes that we can do that. And there's also a benefit as well that if there's supporting documents that go alongside the data, so for instance the urgent leaver forms or ill health documentation when somebody retires, or if a member has opted out and you want to let us know and give us confirmation of that opt-out, or if a member moves from the main scheme to 50/50, all of these forms can be uploaded direct onto the portal, and it uploads direct onto our pension system, onto the members' records. So it is a lot secure, and hopefully less information doesn't go astray because it's uploaded directly onto that onto our pension system. So basically that's just a brief overview of what iConnect involved, and we're looking like if you think you are kind of getting prepared to iConnect, or you would be in a position you are somebody who has got an iConnect report that's already in place, that you could get in touch just to let us know. I know some people have already sort of done that, and we have got those on the side. Or even if you're a small employer who is would be looking to do an online submission, you may have already submitted your year-end return already and would like to get on board early in the next financial year, then yeah, please get in touch, or we may try even to reach out to get some online small employers on, because it is a lot easier, I think, the online submission to get on and get going.
Sorry, Leanne, there's one little question here.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to answer it now when we are on iConnect. Can we give access to our payroll providers to iConnect?
As in for the iConnect person to be, they're the ones uploading it?
Yes,
I would imagine. Yeah, I would imagine. I believe that to be the case, that's fine, that they would nominate the iConnect provider to be the person who uploads, because I said I know a lot of payroll providers do already have the report sort of built in. I have had a few contact with payroll providers who say they have got that set up. So if you know your payroll provider does do that, just let us know as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to move on to Engage now, but I'd like to sort of mention to people that if you have any questions, we've got a little, possibly a quick fire Q&A session at the end. If you put the questions in the chat, the meeting chat, then we'll try and address them at the end, or as many as we can in the time we have.
Okay, that's fine. I was just going to have a brief mention of Engage, the member portal. We've been live with this for over a year now, and I said I think we've had quite a lot of positive reports back that it is helping out. We've rolled it out for all active and deferred members, and currently 46% of our active membership have signed up, and around 36% of our deferred members have registered to the portal. So they're finding this useful. I was just going to go through a few points that you may want to kind of point your members to, or just so you understand what we're doing with the Engage moving forward. It is secure online access for members, so they can view and manage that pension information. We did, when we rolled it out, sent an activation code out to each member so that they could get on. But if we do hold a personal email address, they can skip that step because we've already got that data on our pension system. So I would just ask, if you are sending through starter information, to provide us with the email address as well, because then it means that if the member does discover the portal, they can get themselves on without contacting us. So that would be a big help if you could do that. That would be great. Annual benefit statements this year will be online, so they will be uploaded to Engage. So unless a member has requested to receive a paper copy, we will be publishing them on Engage. So I just wanted to warn you, if you did have some members who came to say that they didn't have an ABS, it may not be that we haven't produced it. It is because it's just online, and they haven't requested to have it posted out as well. So just to warn you of that. And moving forward, we will be increasingly uploading sort of calculators, letters, documents to Engage instead of posting it out to members. So just to kind of make you and sort of your members aware that's probably the first place to look if you're waiting on information from us. But we should send an email as well to update you that something's there, or update the members. Yeah, and just that members can update their personal details on there and upload documents, and it's just a more secure way of them sending that documentation. Yeah, and just to let members know that they can go on there. It's a way for them to check their information. They can use the retirement planner and run their own pension forecast. So it may, if they possibly asking you how they can get some estimates out of us, we tend to only produce one a year, but they can go onto the portal and produce as many as they like, basically. Okay, so that's all I wanted to really update on Engage, and I'm going to hand over to Pella for information with regard to contribution rates, I think, Pella.
Let's go to the next one there. Yeah, so this is our webpage about contributions, and they're located as well under the employer admin guide. We have updated the table with the employer contribution with effects from 1st of April this year, and they were confirmed today in the LGPS Bulletin 274. The details are the same as the one in the Bulletin 272 that was sent out to you on the 5th of March. So if you already changed your payrolls, it's the same. So, but the table is there on our website. On this web page, you can also find information how to allocate the correct contribution band to your employees. This is something you must do every 1st of April, and you need, if you have changed contribution band for any of your members, they're members in the local government pension scheme, you need to let them know as well that you have done that. There is additional times where you can reallocate these bands, but that is information about that is on the web on this web page. So you can read a little bit more about that. But this is updated to the new banding from 1st of April for you. So you can use this page. Next slide, please. This just showing a little bit under the drop-down menu for employer contribution. The new rates and adjustment certificate is not yet published there, but we hope that it's going to be there very, very soon. You should all have had your contribution rates now. If you haven't, please let us know, but you should know what your employer contribution rate should be for the next 3 years. On this page, you can also see then how to pay your contributions over to the fund and contact details for the investment team that are taking care of that. And also a reminder about contributions, that even though a member's contributions may differ at times, so if there are unpaid leave or child-related leave or sickness, the employer's contributions are set on the assumed pensionable pay, so the normal pay they would have had. That kind of information as well, when you need it, is on this page. So it's always there for reference for you. So very useful. And that's all from me.
I was just going to quickly run through a little bit with regard to the year-end requirements. It's very similar to the format that we did last year. We tried to produce a sort of template that you could do a few validations before you sent in. There is one with the sort of macros and non-macros, because I know a few people had trouble opening that. So you're required to, well, the employers who are not on iConnect at the moment are required to submit a year-end return. This would include all active roles in the Gloucestershire Pension Fund during that financial year. Your nominated contact should have received an email with the template, with the website links and the contact information for anybody at the fund who may be able to help you out with that. If you could ensure that there's no duplicate payroll references are included, so every line on the year-end return has a different payroll reference, and the submission deadline we've got is the 30th of April for that, the same as it was last year. There is still the how-to video available for guidance. I think that link was on the email as well. So if you've got any trouble filling in the template, look at that in the first instance, or contact the fund if you have any issues. Okay, yeah, any incorrect or incomplete year-end data will delay or prevent accurate annual benefit statements going out for members. So if we receive references that we kind of do not recognise, or we haven't got any on the system, we will try and query them as soon as possible, because we won't be able to post obviously the year-end figures that are on the return. So if we do come back to you with a query or form request, if we could have those back by the 30th of May as well, that would be great. That would leave us enough time to post the information and then start producing the annual benefit statements. And just a note as well, if you do get contacted by myself or one of my team to try and resolve some historical year-end queries, please just try and respond just to help us out with any information you can confirm with regard to that person, because we know that some employers have payroll providers who have only just sort of taken over their payroll function, so they can't actually provide us with any sort of leaver details or any starter information if they are sort of a few years old. So if you can provide any sort of confirm any sort of leaver information for us, then we can try and move forward with those queries and try and get those resolved, so we can get everybody onto iConnect moving forward. And that's all. I've heard the ping in. So have we got any questions, Pella, with regard to year end?
We had one. If we pay for GCC payroll service, will they complete our year-end requirements for the pension scheme?
I'm sure they do. When we sent out the email, Pella, I had a feeling we just sent it out.
Business Service Centre usually do that. You can by all means give them a call and just make sure that they are.
No, I think we do get them direct. Okay, well, if there's any more questions, but I'm just going to hand over to Andy now to talk about LGPS investment pooling and update us with some regulatory changes.
Thank you, Leanne, and good afternoon all. So as Leanne said, I'm going to talk about a number of changes which are being implemented or are being implemented by government. There's quite a lot of activity going along at the moment. I'm just going to provide a high-level update of what's happening and what we're expecting to happen. We will send out more information over email on certain aspects of it, like on one part of these reforms. The legislation was only laid very recently, within the last week or two. So we're still going through that at the moment, and we will send out further information. But I'll give you an overview now, and I just walk through this at a high level for you. So first of all, this is related to investments. I won't spend a huge amount of time on this, but I'll just provide it for sort of some greater context of what's going on with the fund. The fund for a number of years has been part of the Brunel Pension Partnership. It was an organisation we co-owned along with 9 other funds, and the idea of that arrangement was that all of our assets would be pooled together for the purposes of investments to have economies of scale. There wasn't a kind of cross subsidy as such going on. It was just a way of pooling that money together so they could receive better fees and ideally better investment returns as well. There was 8 of these asset pools which existed across the country, and the government undertook a review of these arrangements and decided that it wanted to consolidate some of these asset pools and decided that it would move forward with having 6 instead of 8. Unfortunately, Brunel wasn't one of the remaining 6, so that meant that we needed to move asset pool. So we chose to move to LGPS Central, and at the moment we're in the process of moving between those 2 pools. From an employer's point of view, you won't see any impact of the change, but it is making a difference about where the money is being, or how the money is being invested. And there's also also the arrangement will work a little bit differently, which I'll come on to in a second. So as I said, no, should be no impact on you, but for sort of wider awareness, this is something which is going on from a funds perspective, and it's quite a key project for us. Alongside this, as well as doing this consolidation of a number of asset pools, the government also stipulated that the remaining pools needed to operate differently to the way that some of them were operating before. One of those stipulations was that they all needed to be FCA regulated, which wasn't the case beforehand, and that all assets needed to be overseen by the pool without exception. There was also a change in where some of the decision-making sits. So the general shift at a high level means that some of the decision-making's moved from being at a committee level to being at the asset pool level. However, the most important decision regarding the overall strategy still sits with our pension committee for Gloucestershire, and the same for other funds across the country. Moving on from that, as part of those wider reforms which came under the title of Fit for the Future, the government didn't just look at the investment pooling, it also looked at governance arrangements, and it implemented some reforms which were initially proposed a few years ago and hadn't really progressed. Some of the key changes with this is that the fund will receive an independence governance review every 3 years. This is kind of being referred to, broadly speaking, as a kind of type of Ofsted for LGPS pension funds. It works it's envisaged this will work in a similar way, although this is new to us, so we're still looking at guidance to see how this may work. Each fund also needs to appoint what is called as an independent person, which will act as somebody who sits on the committee and helps provide advice and support to the committee on all of the main areas to do with investments, assets, and investment administration and governance. There's also a formalisation of the person who leads the pension fund. So probably for most pension funds, that might be a head of pensions, but it will vary across the country. And that person will be called an LGPS senior officer. This is part of a general movement to have a little bit more greater separation between the way the pension fund and its host authority. So our host authority is Gloucestershire County Council. But part of the reason we use different brandings and identities because we represent a number of different employers, as you know. Obviously, we operate for over 200 employers, and we have a separate governance structure. So there's a greater movement in that direction of a bit more separation. In addition to that, the government didn't stop there with reforms. They've also looked in a couple of different phases about changes to the actual administration of the scheme. Some of these will affect you as employers, others won't, but we'll just make you aware of it. There's been changes to the way that survivor and death benefits operate, something which includes that we need to go back retrospectively and review lots of cases. The main reasons why those are in place is to remove discrimination or seen as discrimination or inconsistencies in some of the rules between people of different partner statuses, i.e. between marriage, civil partnerships, whether it's same-sex or opposite-sex couples, as those rules have changed in general over the laws. The pension rules didn't keep up. There's also a number of things which are coming under the title of gender pensions gap. Some of those are reporting requirements that will change, but there are also changes to the administration. These particularly relate to people who are on unpaid leave or on maternity leave. Some of the timeframes will change, and also the requirements around contributions. We will contact you about this because it does change what you need to do in those scenarios in terms of when you take contributions and what timeframes apply. As I said, this is part of legislation which only came out very recently. So we will pull together a briefing note and send this to you. These changes apply at different points in time. Some of them are from April, some of them are backdated. We also will have a requirement, although this hasn't come into legislation right now, but we also have a requirement to report to the government on opt-out numbers, which we will need from employers to provide this information, provide it directly to government, because we don't necessarily know if somebody has opted out on starting. So that has been confirmed, but this is I believe that's going to come in the second phase of this. And then there's lots of other miscellaneous changes, which I won't go into in great detail, but as an example of this is there's a change to how refunds operate and when we can pay them. So this is under the title of access and fairness. As I said, the first part of this is already in legislation now, so we will send out information on that. There's a second phase of it, which I think is a smaller number of changes, which we're expecting to come into legislation at the end of this year. Moving along, there was another reforms which with a similar title, but is actually different, referred to as access and protection. It's covered 4 main areas. So one of these is changes to the normal minimum pension age, which again is relevant to you as employers. At present, this is 55. So this is the earliest age that somebody can voluntarily take pension unless it's for ill health purposes. And it's also the minimum age which applies for redundancy about when there is strain costs and the person can receive it earlier. That minimum age is going up to 57 from 2028. However, importantly, there are protections in place. So there's protections in place for people who have been in the scheme for at least a few years. And so what it means is that for quite some time, we will have a 2-tier system, if you like, that the minimum age will be 55 for some members, for other members it'll be 57. The voluntary aspect of it's probably not of so much of a direct relevance to employers, but the redundancy will be. So in some cases, you could end up with 2 members who are age 56 who would be treated differently because of their lengths of time in the scheme about whether they could receive pension or not. So that's one thing which is coming in. Another change is in relation to providing access for councillors and mayors. Understanding of this is only talking about councillors at a district or a county level. This isn't in legislation yet, but we anticipate it coming in very shortly, i.e. in the next couple of weeks, and it's anticipated to apply from the middle of May. I think it's 11th of May from memory. This will allow councillors and mayors, once there is a mayor for the region, to opt into the pension scheme. Their benefit structure will be a little bit different to the main one, so we will run it and operate it differently. For example, there won't be certain provisions linked to things like redundancy, and the way that they can join pensions together and stuff will be different. We're still awaiting for the final detail of that, but we will update the website and provide information for those employers who are affected by that. What we also anticipate needing to do is, because there's a pension fund, we won't know who the councillors are at those organisations. So we're seeking employers' assistance in terms of advertising that this change is taking place and directing them to the form where they can opt in. There's also some changes related to academies and fair deal. The main changes with academies is just altering the process of where academies which span more than one fund can seek to change who their administrating authority is. There is already a process for this, but this is just seeking to slightly streamline that process, should an academy wish to take that up. So I said, as with other things on this, these are things which we're awaiting legislation for, so it could change, but we anticipate legislation coming in later this year. The final point is to do with what's referred to as new fair deal, which relates to outsourcing to admitted bodies. There's a proposal to remove admitted body status and replace it with a sort of deemed employer status. With this has the potential to streamline that process whenever you do an outsourcing, but it is quite a fundamental change to the way that works at present. However, we believe there's been quite mixed feedback to that proposal, so it'd be interesting to see if it goes through as proposed or not. If it does go ahead, we'll provide much more information at the time. We believe, as I said earlier, that these sort of changes could be coming in towards the end of the year. Okay, and that's it. I'll pass over to Will to close us off.
Yes, many thanks for attending, everybody. Hope you found that enjoyable or informative. We have a short little bit of time for some questions and answers. So hopefully Pella will have a few questions that have been put into the chat. Then if you want to ask one quickly now, you can. But Pella, do we have any questions?
We had one regarding contributions, and it goes like this. We have had the draft contribution rates, but not received confirmations that they are the final rates for the next 3 years. How do I get the confirmed rates, please? Or is the draft the final? Do you want to answer, Andy, or should I?
I believe the draft rates are the final, unless you've been told otherwise. But we can get that confirmed for you if you drop us an email. To our normal pensions mailbox. You can see it on the website, but it's pensions@gloucestershire.gov.uk.
Yeah, if you could contact us on the website, it'll be there.
We have one here. The old employee contributions is on the website. Will this be updated with the new? So that is that the adjustment certificate for next year. It hasn't been published yet, but it will come out on the website soon. So the link there at the moment under the employee contribution is showing the last valuation, but the new one is on its way, so it will be published there soon. How long was the length in service needed when the age changes from 55 to 57? I think you said the answer, but there was a blip and I missed it. Andy?
I didn't put the exact protections in front of me, but from memory, I believe it's somebody who was in the scheme from 2021.
Yeah, I've got the 4th of December. I don't know where I wrote that down, but yeah, December 21 I've got written down.
Yeah, there are some other stipulations. We will send it round once it's been finalised. It hasn't been finalised, and we know it's definitely going to be changing from 55 to 57, but the exact details of the protections, that's what's being consulted on rather than the actual change. So I'd imagine it would cover quite a large proportion of people, but as I said, the exact protections haven't been finalised yet.
There is another question in the Q&A by the looks of things. Is staff needed to qualify national minimum wage limit to put additional pension contributions?
I'm not 100% certain about this, but I believe it shouldn't be affecting their gross pay because you're just taking the contributions of it. So I wouldn't have thought it would, if they were putting additional contributions in, unless it's some type of salary sacrifice arrangement, I wouldn't have thought it would affect minimum wage, but that's just my understanding of it. I wouldn't say that's probably not a pensions question exactly, because it's more to do with employment law.
I'd just like to say thank you again to everyone for attending. Have a good rest of the day.